We had a solid weekend this past week with the school. We had 2 tournaments actually. Couple of kids went out to Greensboro for the what was it?
Good fight.
Good Fight sub only tournament. And they brought home a bunch of hardware, and then we had 3 of our adult competitors go out to Spartanburg for New Breed. So we'll be going over the New Breed footage. I think this Wednesday is the plan. So go ahead and tune in for that, and we can break down what our guys did good, what they did poorly, what they need to work on, what they kicked ass with, all that fun stuff. So in the meantime, what's up, James? What's up, Joe? How you boys doing? There will be plenty of laughter come Wednesday when we go over the tournament footage. So, and then in other news, we have Hickory November 5th. I believe that's, as far as I know, that's the next, like, you know,
Naga.
local tournament. Yeah, that's a Naga tournament, non-IBJJF tournament that's happening. So if you guys are interested, let us know. Talk to Mike and I, talk to Luke, talk to Bertram, and we will get things squared away to start prepping for that. So I think a few of us will be out there. So if you guys are interested, let us know. Should be a good time. So let's get into this. We've got footage from, let me check, September 1st. This was a gi class earlier this month that we haven't gone over yet. So let's get into it.
We haven't gone over gi in a while. I feel like.
Feels that way, yeah.
Yeah.
That's because gi is stupid.
Still is. We got Joe and Austin.
Then we got Daniel and Patrick, I think, or Pat rather.
Yep. Then Duncan and Camden.
Yeah, off to the side here. What's up, Deathcore? How you doing, bud?
What's up?
Glad you can join us after your family time.
Damn right.
Put the wife to bed.
Watch jiu-jitsu.
Tell her I got important things to do.
Cam just took Duncan straight into the pillar. So I think wasn't it Deathcore who was asking how many people have taken a hit on that pillar?
It was somebody, yeah.
Yeah, Duncan's casualty number 1.
For this evening. Let's check it out. What's the YouTube channel?
Yeah, what is it?
10th Planet. That sounds like 10th Planet Austin.
Austin, Texas.
10 PATX. Do live Thursday night no gi rolls. It's on Twitch or they stream live on YouTube.
It said YouTube.
Okay. I absolutely haven't checked that out. That'd be cool to drop in on 1v1 rolls.
Oh, that's awesome. I know they did some stuff with when Craig in the B team. Well, before it was B team, right? When Craig would go, he trained out of 10th Planet Austin. Him and Nikki Ryan did, and I saw some YouTube footage of them training.
Interesting. Beltweight matches, lots of good content. Cool. No, I'll definitely check that out.
Check that out. Yeah.
I had no idea they were doing that.
It's cool.
Yeah, I'm glad it's no longer just like Southern California and New York City that are the grappling meccas. Now we got Austin blowing up.
I'm really liking what Joe's doing with Austin's legs here. Walking, like, really driving the knees away from the body. But here, Joe, it almost, you almost get a little carried away with it, and Austin's able to turtle up. I'm trying to figure out what I would do in order to stop that turtle. And I think the answer is that right hand, you were kind of reaching through the leg. I would like to see you settle that down on the far hip, and making, like a good tight, waist grip, basically.
Like a weave, like a leg weave.
Yeah, so you have the option to leg weave there. I was just thinking with the right arm, putting it on Austin's left hip down by the mat, and doing like the cupping uh, that Luke has been teaching a lot lately for side control, just to get him to to prevent the rolling. That's all. I don't know. Am I making sense at all?
Yeah, I think so. I think I get what you're saying.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's all in an effort to prevent turtling up, right?
Right.
Okay.
I had a few rounds of doing horrible, absolutely terrible with Caleb, and I cannot remember whether this is going to be a good match for me or a bad match. Because there was like, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks in a row I would come in and he would just absolutely smash me.
It's good. It's always humbling, right?
It really is. If I remember right, this was one at the time where I was taking a chapter out of your book and just being like, I'm not going down. Like I cannot accept bottom position here.
Yeah. Go for the standing belt grip.
Yeah. I have to be very careful with that because he really likes to clamp down with that overhook
Yep.
and then take me with kind of like a lateral drop. I keep calling him a lateral drop. It's his like big turning um, drop, whatever he does.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he's working his own belt grip on you now.
Yep.
That belt grip's really useful, but primarily so when you get their posture broken. Like him just reaching around behind you like that, and like the same way you were doing to him. If he's not off balance, or if his posture isn't broken, he's definitely not off balance, and like there's just no takedown to be had.
Yeah, you see how like when I'm trying to reach over for it, I'm trying to snap him down in the process.
Yeah.
So like I'm trying to pair that with this, right?
Ooh,
So
single
now I
leg.
grab the single leg.
Runs the pipe.
And then
Nice.
yeah.
Little whiplash there.
But did I grab? I can't remember if I grabbed his. Yeah. So I reach over to your point, right? Like his posture starts getting broken down. I see that, so I'm like, yep, I'm grabbing that belt. So I take him for a ride.
Nice. Nice counter.
Thank you. Yeah, it was pure timing, and then I did a little shit talking. So
Naturally.
yeah.
Yeah, I think I was talking about it with Austin this past week. We were chatting about a bunch of different things, but the stand-up game was one of them. It was either Austin or maybe Danny or somebody, but like they're in talking about setups. Like a good thing to remember, when your takedowns, when the things you're trying to work aren't like working for you, it's easy to just be like, oh, I suck at this, and I shouldn't, I should just stop doing it or whatever. But like really, like you've got to think about it. It's not whether or not you suck at it. It's just like, all right, what am I doing wrong? And like what goes into successful takedowns? And it comes down to breaking posture, creating off balancing or kazushi, and that's it. I mean, that's the crux of any setup for a takedown. If you can get them off balance, I'm going to say off balancing is the most important thing. Getting their posture broken, a close second, but like, someone with an upright posture, you wouldn't call that a broken posture, but they're wide open for, shots and things like that. But that's, if your takedowns aren't working, you aren't doing enough to get things broken down. Nice shin pin there. I think you were trying to advance from the neon belly.
I didn't really notice, but I gathered quite the audience here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so I'm using this neon belly really to try and set up a top pin. He was really, really tough for me to get like shoulder pins. So I'm using that to staple his hips down.
What's up, DJ 49er?
What's up?
Haven't seen you in a while. Welcome back, buddy. Some solid wrestling attempts from him. He's leaving his head on the outside. A little dangerous. But didn't quite get up to an athletic enough spot to take advantage.
My pants were falling down so bad.
It's the gray gi pants extension you bought. He knows he's trying so hard to get his back to the ground to prevent that back take or the Kimura that was open there.
Yep.
But in doing so, leaving himself open to mount.
So I want to point something out. Can you go back a little bit? I just want to show what I'm doing here. So one might ask, like, well, why don't you just try and high step into mount or whatever? And the answer is because I know that as soon as I try and come into a mount, my my left knee will have to slide over, and then I know that Caleb's right elbow is going to go down, attack my knee, and put me into a half guard. So what I'm doing here is I come around and I make an elbow to elbow grip here, and then I'm going to give him a strong crossface with my right hand, and I'm going to start connecting his elbow and his head there, and then I'm going to drive my knee really far up there in order to get rid of the ability for him to capture my leg into a half guard. So one of those things to where, when I see people high stepping and coming over top almost haphazardly, you can time that, right? And that'll work. But against somebody who really, truly understands that you're going to go and take a mount, they're going to be able to capture your leg quite easily. So just something that I do to mitigate that risk.
Yeah, I feel like I've been preaching that a lot with some of the upper belts, like blue belts and up. Really putting a premium on control during submission attempts or during positional advancements. Like, that's a prime example of it.
Yep.
I think everybody in side control or knee on belly immediately, feels tempted to shift over into mount, and then they just end up taking a giant step back because the other guy gets their guard set up with a bottom half guard or whatever.
Yep.
And it's just from not taking enough time. Got Daniel and Luke, and then who else? Looks like Joe and Camden. Yeah.
Yep.
And then Austin and Brandon, and you and other Brandon.
I'm starting to remember this night now. Brandon puts in some work on me.
We've seen him doing a lot with single legs, I feel like, in the last month or two.
Totally.
Obviously, in gi, it's a little bit different, how you set up your shots and how you make things work. Luke was down on his back a second ago. Let's see what he did with Daniel here. So he's up over in like a trap triangle on Daniel, heists his hips up, puts Daniel on his back. Okay. Actually, let's take a little bit further. I want to see how Luke got there.
So scissor sweep.
Yeah, that's all it was. It looks like Daniel was working like a pants grip.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so he's working a standing guard break. Luke puts him down. I think he just caught Daniel thinking here. Yeah, so behind Brandon's head. Yeah, looks like Daniel reached under the leg to establish a pants grip, but left himself vulnerable there to the scissor sweep.
Yeah, I think he was trying to set up an over-under pass.
Yeah.
And I think he's still almost trying to do it, but with that much leverage that Luke has, he wouldn't be able to pull it off.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
So now Luke, his left leg is... Yeah, so he's not in a full triangle yet. Okay, and now he's getting stacked past here.
Yeah.
Which is miserable against Daniel. Jesus. So now he's got a dorsal Kimura set up, I think. He's walking around trying to get to the Kimura. Oh, it slipped. Maybe he didn't have it. Maybe I made that up.
Let's go back real quick.
And it looked like he did. Right?
He had the arm under Luke's arm.
Yeah.
I don't think he had like a figure 4 grip set up though.
Yeah, okay, you can see the arm slip out there.
Yeah. Austin on Brandon's back, working the collar strangle.
Yep.
Ooh, with the body triangle too. And actually, I like what Brandon's doing here. It's hard to see just because they're all the way in the back and they're both wearing white. Actually, before I break it down, okay. So he's trying to, Brandon is trying to capture Austin's leg, because like the body triangle is such a hard, it's a difficult thing to control here. But like, actually, let's go back a few frames. So with Austin's top foot or his top leg right here, like the goal for Brandon is to get this foot all the way across the body. That's what opens up a triangle. If you think about it, that would just make Austin's legs basically crossed at the shins. It's not even crossed at the ankles. It's crossed at the shins, which is a very weak, like, it's a weak connection to the body. Like hooks are stronger than that. And in order to do that, Brandon wants to get his top leg, in this case his left leg, behind and to the outside of Austin's left leg, and then using his own knee, he pushes the ankle across the body, which it kind of looks like he's trying to do that here. He pulls his leg over. I feel like maybe he was thinking, oh, I can like torque on his ankle or something. That doesn't really work with the body triangle. But in doing that, you can see he's like pulling his knees up and getting Austin's leg closer to that crossed shin position, which weakens the triangle. I don't know if it looks like Austin, he loses the body triangle there. Brandon steps out. Okay, cool. Gets his hips free. Good stuff. Really good, really good. Brandon down here trying to work his way to north-south on you.
Yeah, he just passed my guard. And so he's, going up into north-south. I'm trying to build up some frames. Able to get one in.
Looks like Daniel got a tap on Luke. I think Daniel was working his patented paper cutter choke. So let's see. Let's go back a little bit. Because Luke, all right, so Luke was mounted here. Daniel hits a stack pass, crosses over. Really good control of the legs as he makes his way around Luke's guard. I think there's a little bit of maybe a little bit of lapel magic that Daniel's working here that we can't see. Okay, not so much. So he's in. Daniel's working side control, gets Luke's lapel under for that like pseudo underhook position.
But it looks like he's trying to crawl up into a mount. You see his right leg, his right knee.
Yeah.
There. So now he's in half guard again.
Steps around.
Oh. No, he's not in half guard. He's passed.
He was for a second. Right. Or shit, maybe you're right.
I think he may have hip switched and been able to get around the guard.
Yeah, it looks. Yeah, Luke's bottom knee was never in. Okay.
Yeah. So now he's around the other side. He's trying to go for the north-south choke here, but Luke has his leg laced. So I'm assuming he's got a grip on the left arm or the left sleeve. and he's using his shin to try and post up.
DJ, we're watching two blackies right here.
Yep.
Yeah, Daniel's the one on top. Luke is the one on
Yeah.
bottoms.
Compression choke. That's what he got him with.
Are you?
Yep.
It looked like there was a lapel wrap there. Like watch as they come away
maybe
here.
he did. Yeah, maybe he. It's tough to tell with the geese. Yeah. Being the same color.
Yeah, I mean either way, it's nothing we haven't.
Horrible position to be in.
Yeah, nothing we haven't seen from Daniel before. Solid work. He does such a great job of like setting it up many steps out and then meticulously working his way while he already has grips. Like he focuses really well on like setting up the grip first and then working his way up the body. Daniel doing a really good job relying on those pants grips to work the pass against Luke.
It sucks so bad when he gets a hold of you.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you can't get away. Yeah, I think he's trying to set up. You know what I think he did? I think he grabbed the jacket and got Luke's arm with his left hand. I know he's coming around, so I think he with his left hand he has the jacket underneath Luke's shoulder, and he's like pulling it up so that Luke has to fall back on that side.
Thank you for the insightful commentary, Steven. They're so awesome you didn't compete in them yesterday. Nice. Nice insistence on Luke being on his back here. Dana's like, nah. Stay down. What'd you get Brandon with here? Looks like a cross collar.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what about Austin and Brandon up top here? So,
Triangle, yeah.
let's see how Austin got here. Looks like just working it from supine position. Yeah, Brandon's not doing enough here to control the legs as he's working to pass, and that's a consequence of that, right? With a real low head, like your head at or below the level of your hips as you're trying to pass, you better know where your opponent's legs are, or this is what you will settle for. Looks like he thought about trying. I don't know if Brandon knows like that seated crossed ankles over the chest triangle escape. Looks like he was thinking about it there. Didn't quite get it. Austin trying to do the head pull. I don't think his legs were in a good spot though. If Austin could cut his angle here, so now he's on the wrong way. Yeah, he's in a wrong way triangle setup where in this case, his left leg is across the back shoulder. It should be his right leg. So it looked like a purposeful switch for him. If that's the case, I would rather see him working for a Kimura on Brandon's right arm or the wrong way triangle, which he wasn't doing from being so straight on, but gave Brandon an opportunity to work on his triangle escape. And Austin looking to crank on an ankle. He gets it. Big collar drag from Caleb. Caleb not interested in passing guard this evening, I guess. Just sitting back for an easy straight ankle on Brandon. Okay. All right. Trying for that low single. Yeah, for that, let's go back and look at that for a second. So as Brandon drops his level here, right there. So he's got head on the outside, which at this level, not terrible. You're obviously not in a, you're not in the words I'm looking for, the threat of a guillotine. But where you put your head can make a difference. I like how Brandon is driving, he's making Caleb's knee point in this direction. I think what Brandon's going for is like the takedown Luke likes to do. It's kind of a compliance takedown where you're bending the knee back into itself. Caleb simply shuts that down by turning his knee over. It's not the most comfortable place for him to be, but you know, the setup that Brandon was going for is now gone with Caleb just turning his knee. If you have your head on the outside like Brandon does here, you should be ready in cases like this, I think, to stand up, right? Keep everything you have. Keep the bend in the knee that Caleb has given you, but start to stand up. Don't just hang out here because you're not going to get the takedown that you wanted. You're not going to get that bend, that backwards bend in the leg to put you down. So you got to be ready to stand up. You could see if Brandon stood up here, he could switch to, you know, he's already behind Caleb, so you could switch to a grip at the waist, then start working some of the forwards moving takedowns, some of the backwards moving takedowns. Alternatively, if he shot this single leg and put his head on the inside, there are some threats there that Caleb could counter with, as far as like you know, different lapel strangles. I can't say I've been caught there too much in the gi, so there are things to be concerned with, but that's more like that wrestling style John Smith low single that you see a lot more often in freestyle and folk wrestling. Another great takedown, but yeah, just I guess the big takeaway there, Brandon, is be ready to come up on that. If your head's on the outside and someone turns out of that, you've got to be ready to move forward. It's not going to pay to just rest on your shins and your knees like that.
And you're set up for a rear triangle too. So if Caleb were to continue that back step around, and then with his left leg scoop your left arm, you're set up for a rear triangle. It's so you really
to be put in one. You're saying?
Yeah, put in one. Yep.
Yeah, if you could get under like Brandon's left arm.
Yep.
Joe and Daniel.
Yeah, normally when I'm trying to hit that low single, I opt for the ankle pick option there, or I'll come up for like a high crotch to sweep around for the outside. Just intense pressure from Daniel here on Joe. Yeah. So now Joe's got his knees pointed away. Easy walk around.
Yeah, and look how simple of a setup that was for Daniel, right? He like just leading with his hips. Joe doesn't have like any threat on Daniel's legs here. So once Daniel gets his hips below Joe's knee, like right below or to the same level as Joe's knee, I think he's got him in like a leg a leg drag position. Yeah, he's got. You can see Joe's left leg is across Daniel's body right here, and then just leading forward with the hips. That alone is enough to get Joe to have to really turtle up or get his knees pointed away. Joe doesn't turtle up here. He just gets his knees pinned, pointing away from Daniel. But
building up frames though, like I like that you've got the frames in the throat. You're trying to get your knees back in. You're doing what you can. But now that your arms are starting to get above your shoulder line, now you're in big trouble.
yeah,
Especially from that compression choke standpoint. Now he's kind of right in his wheelhouse.
Yep. Solid finish. Take it like a man. No one will ever argue with that, Joe.
We have all fallen victim to that. It looks like Brandon here in the middle against Duncan. He was still going for that over the head wrap, like a guillotine from side control. Really like him to not go for that type of a grip. You can get caught.
Yeah, just like the classic white belt mistake. Holding the guillotine a little too long as someone gets to side control.
And for Duncan, way to understand the body positioning that you're in, to realize that you're not in danger, right? No freaking out, and just working your way through that guillotine.
Yeah. Brandon up top here, it looks like he's going for an Americana, or a Kimura rather.
Yes, he is.
I forgot. I didn't see who he was going against.
I think it's Austin.
Yeah, it must be Austin, yeah. Because I think we got
Pat and Pablo.
Yeah.
So can we go back to that sweep from Daniel? I was looking elsewhere. Okay, it was I'm
Off of the
lockdown.
yeah.
Yep, beautiful. Nice tight jacket grip. Oh, but then he just blocks the leg and then Upa's over. See, I thought he was going to use that to turn, but he lets go of it and then Upa's, and I think blocks that Joe's left leg.
Yeah, he blocks it with his arm.
Mm-hmm. I think that was a paper cutter choke.
Must have been, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, without the jacket grip on the back. Like normally for the paper cutter, you would have your right hand, Daniel's right hand across the lapel, and then the left hand would come around and grab the jacket underneath the neck. So you'd be basically on the same side of the body here, and you cinch it up that way.
Yep. Oh, Joe.
Was that another Makikomi?
No, I think Joe just got a little overextended here. Because maybe you could call it that. Like, at least in the family of that. Yeah, I guess Daniel maybe got Joe's left arm trapped and then eventually hit the roll here.
Yep.
Yeah. Caleb's worked his way up to a nice position.
Which one? Caleb?
So yeah, Caleb and Brandon up top here. Let's look at this. This because this is kind of in the vein of some of the side control stuff I've been working. So it's hard to tell. I can't tell if Brandon has a hip frame here.
I think he does. His hand is against the,
Is that his hand? Okay.
the left hip. Yep, it is. Because now it's through the legs.
Yeah.
He lost. Yep.
Yeah. So, and it looks like it looks like Brandon voluntarily put it there. Like fighting Kung Fu Panda. That's an apt description. So with this like side control stuff, when someone is attacking your far arm, as Caleb is doing on Brandon right now, you do not want your inside hand, the one that frames the hips, to get between the legs. That's not a hard fast rule for all cases. You'll catch me playing with my inside hand between the legs a lot. What I'm not doing when I'm playing that game is fending off attacks on the far side arm. You won't catch me doing it when somebody has an underhook on that arm. You won't catch me doing it when someone's trying to isolate it with an Americana or a Kimura or a straight arm or wrist lock or whatever. I always want my inside arm, what I'm calling the inside arm is the one that frames the hips. So in this case, Brandon's right arm. I want that at my disposal to try to frame and turn, have it so that if I turn towards my left arm in this case, I can defend if I need to in the very worst case scenario. When you'll see me using my right arm in between someone's legs is when my left arm, the arm that's typically being, someone's trying to underhook it or attack it, it's close to my chest, it's framing shoulders, it's not under attack. I'll use my inside arm to reach between the legs, grab, in this case, what would be Caleb's right ankle, try to open that ankle up so that my legs can attack it, things like that. But you do not want your leg trapped between someone else's, or I'm sorry, you don't want your arm trapped between someone else's legs in side control when your own arm is under attack or when it's being underhooked. It's just a bad spot to be. So now you can see Brandon doesn't have the ability to not just defend with that right arm, but to even turn his body. His shoulders are pinned now because he can't turn towards him. So he gets caught in the what does Caleb get here? I think a straight arm. Well, let's see if Caleb even finishes it. I can't remember. He steps over for the Kimura. Yeah, he gets the Kimura. Gets him in that dorsal Kimura position. So you got to know when you could voluntarily put that right arm between the legs, and it isn't when your other arm is under attack. It's really, really bad time to do it. I mean, I guess while I'm thinking about it, to complete that technique, if you guys are mentally following along, if Brandon had his left arm safe here, if this arm was safe, if it was in front of his chest, and he was able to turn towards Caleb, and this arm opened up this leg, the next thing for him to do is use his left arm to reach behind Caleb's waist, get like a false grip, like a grip like that on Caleb's right ankle, start turtling up, capture the leg, work to his knees, hip heist up, grab a single or double or whatever, knee tap double, and hit a sweep. So all of that goes out the window when your arm is being under attack, or when your arm is being attacked. Looks like everybody's waiting out the end of the round. There it is. Who's that? Caleb and Austin. You and Joe making fireworks behind the pillar.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so one thing, I don't know if you caught that takedown or however you want to call it.
With you and Joe?
But yeah, so we're in this to where Joe's attacking me, right? Like he's like 100% on the offensive here. He's really starting to cut the angle, and I'm in a losing grip battle. So the one thing that I have, yeah, I believe I take a collar. Yeah, I've got a cross side lapel grip, and I've got a near a same side. I think I had a sleeve grip, but I wind up letting it go as I'm starting to pull him down, um, into what you would think like would be a sacrifice throw. But as we're circling, what I'm noticing is that his legs are wide open. So what I have to do is make a quick turn sitting to my butt, and then as I'm pulling him in, you see his left leg is stepped very far forward. So I just pull myself right underneath and shoot into Ashigarami here. And then I use this in order to finish, to get a sweep, I guess. It wouldn't be a takedown, right? It would be a guard pull to a takedown. Rolling over, or I'm sorry, a guard pull to a sweep, and then establishing a top position from here. So just like there's more than one way to get somebody down, right? If you feel like you're getting beat, up top and whatnot, being able to use leg and then I get swept immediately right after. That was really nice. A big scissor sweep actually.
Oh yeah,
No,
really
actually,
good. Yeah, but I mean, I guess you could, like, it was a De La Riva leg position, but definitely the mechanics of a scissor sweep. Like he puts his it's hard to catch the right frame. He puts his he's got your leg blocked, and then he puts his shin kind of up in the armpit as he's taking you over.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, yeah, I guess you'd call that a De La Riva sweep, but
Yeah. Yeah, it was a really nice sweep. Looks like I got back up into a top position though. Then we lost it behind the pillar.
let's see what Luke and Dunk the Funk do.
There's another good scissor sweep. Bread and butter for Luke.
Actually, let's look at his grips when he does it.
Yep.
So you can see Luke sets up his cross collar grip, and then a same side wrist grip. Duncan, you can tell by his head position, his legs are a little light right now because his head is out over his knees. It's like Duncan's head is closer to Luke's head than it is to his own heels. And watch how Luke just does this little subtle shift with his hips. He gets his hips out here, goes to hit that sweep. He between these couple of frames, you can watch his right leg get set up. His toes are pointing along the mat. Pulls his leg by as he extends his top leg and uses his grips to pull Duncan over and takes top position.
Over under. Nice.
Yeah, it's such a crappy spot to be. Daniel and I were going back and forth with that earlier this week about how, like, big guys love to get put in triangles because they just use it as an opportunity to pass. They just kind of work a smash pass. And it's very true, especially in the gi.
Another thing I'll call out about the way that Luke's finishing that pass, I think he's doing it just based off of muscle memory and just again, just good technique, is that watch that when he comes around to pass, his right arm is going to make a grip on a V grip. You could use a pants grip here, but I think he opts for a V grip on Duncan's right leg because that's his lower leg when he's coming around on that side. And nope, as he continues to pass,
Oh,
he's gonna shuck. But then Duncan always has the ability here so Luke knows that he doesn't have the hips controlled here, that Duncan's hips are free to move because and you know why? Well, because Luke hasn't gotten his right knee up to the hip line of Duncan yet, so he hasn't technically cleared the pass, I guess, is kind of how you want to think about it. And so he comes around and gets this V grip, or V grip on the ankle lower leg of Duncan's right leg, and uses that to stave off the bottom knee to start shooting in. It looks like Duncan's doing a good job of trying to hip switch here. And it actually, so Luke goes to a knee on belly temporarily, and then he sees that he can pin the arm and go to the Kimura immediately. So he uses his right knee to pin the hips temporarily. Duncan's left hand is left resting on his belly, and so Luke just snatches the grip right there, and then comes around to the dorsal position, and he's probably going to finish this, I would assume.
yeah, unless Duncan can get his back flat to the mat. Luke's legs are a little wide, like his knees are kind of wide right now. There he goes. He started pinching it up. Yeah.
And a lot of times he does like a cat. It's going to be a cat and mouse thing because there's a lot of material that Duncan can grab onto for this Kimura.
Yeah.
So he's just using it to set up now the bow and arrow choke.
Yeah.
What a jerk.
Yeah, that was nice. Yeah, that's not a finish you think a lot about when you primarily focus on Noki. But yeah, setting up that dorsal Kimura, using that position to then feed the lapel across, that's solid. Once you get in.
So Steven's got a question. Once they get on that over-under, what's the best way to regard or prevent the pass before it's settled?
Are you talking about from the triangle? Like what I was saying when big guys smash your triangle?
Mm-hmm. And just like what Luke had just done to Duncan.
Yeah. I can't remember what was the best way to regard for the pass before it's settled. Well, I mean, my initial thought is let's see. Let me go back to a good spot just so we can look at it. Did I already pass it?
It's right. Yeah, it's coming up right here.
So right here, like this is kind of the point of no return, right? So Duncan never even got to lock up a triangle, like a trap triangle or anything. So right here, if I was in Duncan's position, I'm like, Luke is about to try to pass. In gi, it's going to be a little bit harder because he has more opportunity to control your hips here if he establishes, good grips around around the pants, around the hips. I typically tend to immediately bail on anything because my legs aren't doing anything at this point. My hands swim all the way over 2-on-1 to the hip. As his head starts to come by my leg, I may take a hand to the head and try to shuck his head to the same side as his hips. We've talked a lot about that, how when you get the head and the hips on the same side, technically they're not really in a side control. It's hard to set up a side control if you don't have your head on one side of the center line and your hips on the other side, pinning them across the body. Before that though, while the head is still kind of stuck in this position below my hips, I'm focusing on pushing on the hips with both hands and trying to shrimp my way back out, trying to get my knees pointed back in this direction, like I'm framing off of their body and trying to turn my legs back. It does give them a chance to like shift and then try to pass to the other direction. Like you're in such a bad spot now that really it's a scramble has kind of been initiated. So I don't have like a good do this, then this, then this, ABC kind of technique for this. It's largely frame, get my hips under my control, get my knees pointed in the direction I want them to get, and then get my legs back in. I hope that's good enough of an answer, but at this point, you've already done such a bad job that like you're scrambling to get your legs back. So it's more of a late stage game. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that depending on how far it's progressed, I think the key here would be the right arm of Luke right here. So the bottom leg that's being pinned. I'm trying to think gi and no gi. In gi, you know, Luke has a pants grip, right, as he's trying to press through. He's pushing and has material in his right hand. But Duncan has the ability to grab a strong sleeve grip and start pulling, right, and trying to strip that grip and threaten the triangle, because as soon as that happens and that gets loose, Luke knows that he's has a somewhat of a threat of a triangle there. The other thing that I would be trying to do is much like the double unders, is I'd be trying to spread my knees out as wide as possible. Now, in this particular configuration, Luke has his left arm is actually inside both legs, and he's using the flare of the elbow in order to keep the knees pointed away, and just his shoulder to drive into Duncan. In this case, Duncan should be able to just drive his right knee over top and pull into like kind of like a very wide open guard here. But like in a true over-under style, Luke would have his left arm hugging the right leg of Duncan, right? Bear hugging it and putting his neck into the thigh and then driving around. And when that's the case, that makes it even more difficult to do. And so in that case, what I would be trying to do is strip the bottom and then invert my knee. So I'd be trying to use my right foot, point it to the ceiling, and drive my knee inside of the elbow and trying to turn and face Luke to regard. And then probably high legging over with the left leg, and then regarding from there. I don't know if that made sense at all, Matt, from where you sit.
Yeah, no, it does. Another option just to throw out there, kind of dawned on me as you were talking about it. This is where we get into breaking the rules that we learn early on, rolling away and turtling up, right?
Yeah, viable option.
Yeah, that might be the simplest answer, and I think it's telling that it isn't the first thing you or I think about, because we've been so conditioned, and a lot of people still are in jiu-jitsu, to like never turn away from your opponent, don't give up the back, don't expose your back, whatever. But if this was a competition and maybe Duncan's up on points, Luke's about to tie, he's down by 2, Duncan may think, well, I don't want to give up the points, so I'm going to turn away from him and turtle up, denying Luke the points, and then Duncan can work, sitting, trying to sit back to guard or anything like that. So that's another viable option. That's where you start getting into bending or breaking the rules that you learn early on. To play a bit more of a strategic game. Obviously, in the vein of self-defense, you're not going to want to do that. But when it comes to jiu-jitsu and playing within the rules of jiu-jitsu, that's a totally viable option. Skip ahead. I like that. I can't say I've ever thought about getting to that dorsal Kimura position or the dorsal pin, and then switching to a bow and arrow. I guess I just always focus on attacking the arm instead of using that to set up the collar strangle.
Yeah, that is good use.
Duncan getting his revenge, except he's losing the back here. Working to mount. So it looks like he's thinking about trying to get that leg free, but the way Luke's configured, it's not going to work as easily as it usually does with using that free leg to extract. So, man, I would like to see Duncan working like double unders here. Like Luke's arm was so extended out that he might have been able to make use of that. Luke's just being a dick right now, though.
Luke
But
did something pretty clever here. So when he turned away and he locked up the leg, what he did was he used his so go a little bit before that. So here, so he uses his, so as he starts to turn, and then Duncan comes up on top. Since Luke is tucking his right arm like really really deep here, right? So then when he comes up and is able to turn into Duncan, when he's able to, Duncan's arm is way high. So he's using his kind of like his left arm to bait Duncan into trying to hook underneath his head. And so now that he switches and gets his hand in a good spot, he automatically has the underhook on the leg that's trapped. So now Luke automatically has the right underhook, or his right underhook on Duncan's left side, and he can just come up and do a pretty quick reversal, back take, whatnot, typical stuff from the half guard.
yep. Luke here is opting for a high underhook.
But no, I like the way that he did that to bait getting the underhook.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those, like,
Go ahead. No, you.
The uninitiated in half guard, in general, you live or die by the underhook in a lot of ways. As we've talked multiple times already, you know, there are ways around that, and it's not a hard and fast rule, but underhooks normally win the half guard game.
Definitely a good rule to stick by in the beginning as you're getting accustomed. And there's I think on Wednesday when we go over the competition matches from yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
I've got some thoughts about like digging on the underhook, and ways to go about it, things to do, things you don't want to do. Like it's a skill in and of itself. Like that battle isn't just an ugly pummeling game with the arms. There are plenty of considerations to be made for securing that, whether from bottom or top position.
Yep, completely agree.
Brandon shooting a single on Luke, getting the takedown.
Wait, nice
guard pass.
Oh, okay.
All right, go right to it. Get it. Choke his ass out.
Does he have it under the arm?
I can't tell. If he does, that's
No,
why
he doesn't.
Luke
Never
doesn't
mind,
care.
never mind.
I don't know. No, he does. Luke's not bothering with it, but scoot ahead a little bit. That was just some good. I obviously Luke is letting Brandon work right now. We got a black belt and a white belt going against each other, but that was some good thinking and good working from Brandon there with snatching that single leg. I like how he took Luke down and immediately tried to work the guard pass. He wasn't being sloppy. He was being pretty deliberate with his moves. Now Luke's just gotta remind him who daddy is. Kudos to Brandon for being a good sport about it all.
He always is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I always say it all the time, but our late night crew is they're all good sports.
And he's fully in like taking your licks mode right now, as all white belts have to be. It's a nice little knee tap. This is like a knee pick rather from Luke here, kind of from the inside, lowering his level. You could see like Brandon's
The whole
weight
environment's scary. Yeah.
Brandon's weight isn't over Luke right now. That's what's really good about knee picks is it's another just kind of like an ankle pick. When someone sprawls on you, you typically don't have to bear the brunt of their weight as you do when you shoot a single leg or a double leg and someone sprawls. Brandon's hips are not over top of Luke's head and shoulders right now. So even as Brandon tries to sprawl out on that, Luke doesn't have to worry too badly about holding up too much weight on his neck.
Yeah, Luke is being very nice, letting Brandon get his knees in, regard, figuring out where he's gonna go.
Let's see what Luke does here. So he's working his top half guard. You'll always hear me screaming at you guys to focus on getting your knee free when you're in top half guard. And Luke did that a second ago as he's looking to set up a bow and arrow here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, like it's kind of like in the gi, and hell, even no gi. The thing with getting somebody looking in the wrong direction in their half guard is that you have a back take with a hook in, so you don't always have to free that leg if you can get them pointing in the proper direction.
Mm-hmm. Is it Joe and Pablo?
Yes.
It's like Joe smashed Pablo right now. Another triangle attempt to a smash pass, kind of over-under pass from Luke.
Yeah, I believe I was monitoring that.
Oh, Joe and Pablo.
Yeah. Or maybe I was working with Austin. I can't remember. I'm over there behind the pillar doing something.
Yeah. Is this Duncan and Caleb here? Yeah.
Yeah.
So Duncan had a nice pass here. Let's check this out. So I think it's just coming from a knee cut. Or no, he steps out. He like high legs out. Closes the distance really well. Pressures into the hips. It's good. He's got to work on getting that inside frame on his hips that Caleb has established. Getting that out. Oh, okay. End of the round. I think that's Pablo and Joe. Pablo's just working some of the stuff he's learned so far. Yeah, and for anybody who jumps into this sport and is doing both gi and no gi and is like totally new to it, you're gonna have a really hard time figuring out when no gi moves are acceptable in gi and when they just get you in trouble. That was, I think Pablo just had one of those moments with Joe on that shot. So Luke's doing everything he can here to control Caleb's legs before he even thinks about trying to progress forward.
Yep.
And as a result, ends up stepping right over into mount. I mean, let's look at this. Let's see how they get down first. So Caleb pulls guard. And Luke immediately sets up. Luke right now, I think, has grip superiority on Caleb. There's a little bit of a switch as Caleb has a sleeve grip. But Luke, you can see here in a second, he comes down to the legs, right? He's got Caleb's bottom leg, his knee pinned here. And then Caleb's hip on the other side. Pinball is the devil. What rank are these two? Are you talking pinball? Are you talking about these two? or are you talking about these two? If you're talking about these guys, the guy in the black gi is a black belt. The guy in the white gi is a blue belt. Guy in the black gi is that's Coach Luke. But Luke is focusing on the knee, like he's controlling the knee here, keeping it low, keeping it difficult for Caleb to use it as a decent hook. I don't remember if he high legs out here or what he does. And now Luke, as he has set up a decent, he's started to pin Caleb here using his head and some forward pressure. He starts to take his hands up to the upper body. He feels like he can get around the legs at this point. Closes in on the hip with his left knee and steps over into mount. Looks like he's working an underhook on the left side. Welcome, Pinball, by the way. Thanks for the follow. I think you started following us a couple streams ago. Appreciate you being here, man.
Thank you.
That reminds me, we are at 98 followers. 2 more followers, so we hit 100.
Sweet.
Which is really cool. We
that?
appreciate the support, guys. What did Luke do here? Maybe he just said some mean stuff to Caleb and Caleb quit. I have no idea. Looks like maybe an Americana.
Yes, or straight arm on the far side. Yeah.
Yeah, hard to tell. Yeah, anybody watching us right now who's not following, be awesome and follow us. We'd really appreciate it. Let's bump us up over to over 100 followers. It'd be rad.
That was a really nice combination. Quick misdirection. Left
Luke?
to right. Yeah. Pulls him down. Caleb's really biased onto that
yeah.
side.
Yeah.
Tries to get his posture back, and then boom. Right over. Back into him out.
Yeah, Pinball, there are a few out there. I think Facility BJJ, I think he still streams some of his classes, but it's going to be like there's a camera, you're watching like a live session, so no commentary. I haven't found anybody else who does what we do in the same way. Like some people will talk over footage from like other sports and all that stuff. I know Jens Pulver, a former MMA fighter, like one of the OGs in like the WEC and the UFC. He runs a channel, and I've seen him like streaming sumo matches and like other martial arts.
Huh.
But yeah, our whole thing is just going over stuff with our students, going over stuff from tournaments that we compete in, old tournaments that Coach Mike and I have been in, and trying to break stuff down for you guys. Yeah, Jen, I haven't watched Jen's channel in a bit, but it was a good one. I stumbled across it a while ago. Definitely worth a follow. I don't know how frequently he streams these days. But yeah, if you have any questions or comments or anything you see that you do or want to start doing, any questions about how to do stuff, please chime up, let us know.
Damn. Third
Luke.
time getting into a mount from a suite.
Luke's just not having it, man. And yeah, tune in Wednesday if you guys weren't with us in the beginning of the show. Wednesday we're going to be going over some footage from this past yesterday, where we had 3 of our boys at a new breed tournament in Spartanburg. We're going to be going over their matches, breaking down what they did well, what they need to improve on, all that fun stuff. So should be educational for everybody.
Yo, I like the way that you're teasing the legs with Pablo there. Like you're, looking for the coaches, like the double coaches here. That's I really like to see that.
Pablo's doing a good job. So he's, for a second there, he had like good grips at the ankles, like making it difficult for Joe to use his legs.
Yep.
But yeah, I think Joe countered that well by getting control of Pablo's legs and closing that distance. It looks like they're just doing some passing and takedown work there.
Yeah, Joe has an origin gi. Yep. I know,
Yeah,
Matt,
yes,
you have
sir.
an origin gi. You just haven't worn it.
Yeah, my white gi is an origin gi.
Yeah.
One of the lower end ones, not the $300 badass silver threaded dragon weave gnarly gi that they sell. I'd love to have one of these days.
I hate gi too much to buy an origin gi.
Yeah, right. It's lasted me a while. I think I bought it when I was a blue belt, and
It's been a minute, man. Yeah.
it's tough and it feels like a bathrobe. Like it's nice quality gi. Oh, Pat, getting worried. Yeah, I don't know if they still sell it. I haven't looked at Origin's product line in a while, but it was their Comp Athleta, I think they called it. There you go. Pat's got some life in him now. No more easy bow and arrows. Oh, are you in Maine, I assume? I know Origin has a few. They have I know their gi stuff is out of Maine. Nice. I think they have a denim like a denim factory down here in North Carolina, because denim out in Raleigh in that area, or no, Greensboro, I think. That was like a big denim textile hub back before everything got shipped overseas. But Origin came down here and did a lot to open up a factory down here.
Yeah, a lot of this part of North Carolina was textiles.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Textile and grain, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Straight ankle lock from Caleb there. Pinball, you ever been to Origin's immersion camp? Yeah, I think that's the immersion camp they do every year. This card is impossible to break. Luke's got an annoyingly tough guard. His guard is the reason my guard passing became what it is today, which was nice takedown from Caleb there. I just said I'm no, fair, yeah. No, you're right. Same, I haven't been either. I think it's like $2,500 or something to go.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, but I hear they sell their gis at the end of it for like dirt cheap when you're there. Yeah, Luke's guard. So I remember a long time ago watching Luke and another black belt roll, and that was where it dawned on me, and this was me as a white belt. So that's where it dawned on me that like going up the middle and controlling legs and hips was the answer to a lot of guard passing, instead of just like trying to be quick on Toriandos and jumping around and all that jazz. Not that it makes it any easier. You still have to have like solid guard passing skills, but yeah, it's his guard is a force to be reckoned with. But when you can start controlling his legs, keeping him on his back, pinning him, his guard is just like anybody else's. He's really good at getting you off balance and fucking up your attempts to pass. Yeah, I've heard great things about the Origin immersion camp.
Nice takedown.
The only thing I think that would suck is having to share a cabin with people, but I think you can get like an Airbnb or something. Yeah, that was solid. Yeah, Luke's never gonna just let you have easy passes on him. I haven't rolled with Luke in the gi in a minute, so I can't give like very specific advice. But there are some, like, the way I'd like you guys to start thinking about guard passing, and it's something I had to do, was like you've got to take some pretty specific, powerful postures that will help you set up. It's like it's building the foundation to the house, right? So I'm a big advocate for like that split squat or headquarters stance, as some people call it. where you have the leg up the middle, both feet are planted, your hips are lowered, you have a knee and an elbow connection, and a hand on the hip. And if all this sounds like really nebulous and not easy to picture, that's fine. We'll go over it at class. But working to a position like that where your base is stable, you're immune, semi-immune to things like Luke trying to hit scissor sweeps on you, pulling you forward, your butt's back, so your weight is back. All those things will really help you in setting up guard passes. It all starts with a solid foundation. And there are other positions that you could take in setting up your guard passes. It all just kind of depends on what kind of passing you like to do. If you prefer Toriandos or, tighter passing, body lock passing, all that stuff. But we could talk about that in greater detail at class. But something to think about. And Luke is the guy to test that against for sure. Looks like somebody got caught with their ankles crossed, almost. I didn't see who this is. Is that? Oh, okay, that's Austin and Joe. Joe almost getting caught with his ankles crossed. I like what Austin's doing here. This is another case of breaking the rules. We've seen a little bit of a theme of that today. For a second there, at least. Austin's using his arms to attack legs. And if you've watched this stream long enough or done jiu-jitsu long enough, you know that's typically a pretty terrible idea when someone's on your back. It's hard to see just because of the white gis right now. Let's go back a few frames. I think it was right here. It's right here. Austin's doing something kind of unique. Well, not unique, but kind of I guess some people could think it's dangerous. In getting a hand to the legs. Normally we worry about arms getting trapped when we do that. That's a great way to give up 50% or maybe a third of your defenses if you talk about your two arms and your tucked chin. When we fight arms with feet, that's when we get our arms trapped. Except when you're fighting the top leg with your bottom arm. Right? There's no way for Austin's arm to get trapped right now. How is he going to get leg trapped or arm trapped or however you want to call it with his bottom arm fighting the top leg? It's not going to happen. That's a safe time to do it. And I go back and forth on whether or not that's something to teach white belts or beginners at class, because you guys know it's hard to be cerebral when you're rolling in the beginning. As a white belt, you're not thinking, is this my bottom arm or my top arm? Is this his top leg or his bottom leg? You just think arm, leg, attack. And that's where you end up in some trouble. So when you get a little bit more comfortable with some of those rules that we talk about breaking later, that's when you get to do stuff like this, where you can start to disrupt legs with your arms, but only in safe conditions, where you're not going to get completely, your guard isn't going to get taken advantage of. Austin's not out of trouble yet, though, so it didn't quite pan out for him here. But it's not because of anything we talked about. Joe's doing a good job here, trying to trap that top arm. But again, and I guess I say again because I've said this a million times on gi streams. I don't really care about leg traps in the gi. I care about collar strangles. So that's what I'd rather see Joe trying to set up here. The getting a good grip is much easier to do with a gi. You don't necessarily need to take the arms away as readily as you do in no gi. It can help. I guess you might be able to get a better fight on the hand fighting game, but it's not essential. Struggling like hell to get that arm every time. Yeah, don't worry about the arm in gi, man. I'd rather you struggle like hell to get your strangle arm to a cross collar grip. That's what I want you to struggle like hell with.
Yeah, so Austin did a really good job getting through the roll on that one and getting back into a guard. That's
Mm-hmm.
he's actually been really tough to maintain the back on. He's really good if you lose control of one arm.
Actually, we'll stay zoomed in on this. Same for Nogi. So, I mean, if you've been struggling to trap that arm with Nogi, the best thing you could do, and we'll have to look at footage or like play around with it at class. It's going to be difficult, especially against some of the higher belts, because they know that I love to play that game. So I think a lot of people are pretty well practiced in shutting it down. But the best way to trap the top arm is to use a cross side grip with your underhooking arm. Let's see if we can go back. We're coming up to the end of the footage here, but let's see if we can find a good example of that in this case before you guys get all tangled up. Like the way it would work, let's pretend that we're in Nogi right now. I want to see your left arm. So your bottom arm is going to need to work to an underhook position. Let's see if you get there. I need like a good visual, so I'm not just like trying to explain this without you guys being able to follow along. You're kind of in that like armbar position, but your bottom leg is trapped, so it's not really a time to switch to the armbar. Yeah, now you guys just turn away. So I don't know if we'll be able to look at this effectively, but we'll go over it at class. Again, just to like solidify it and have you thinking about it before class tomorrow. If you want to leg trap that top arm, the best way to do it is to get the hand below the line of the pecs, right? The line that connects, think like the nipple line, right? The line that would connect your two nipples. Get the arm or the hand below that line. That's when it's most vulnerable. The easiest way to get it below that line is to have the cross side arm. So in this case, if Austin's arm, if his left arm was on top, your right arm is going to be grabbing the cross side. And you want to do that with your right arm as an underhook. So not your strangle arm, which is what we'll call the overhook, but it's the arm that's over the shoulder. The bottom arm, I don't want to say left or right, but the bottom arm will be underhooking and grabbing the wrist of the top arm. That's when you can easily pull it below the line of the pecs and then swing that leg over. And you swing that leg over not by just like circling it over the body. You do it by pulling your knee to your nose and then pulling your ankle over. That's going to be the best, like the most mechanically efficient way to do that. It's not going to win every time, right? Like plenty of you deny me that arm trap, and it often has a lot to do with my like hip position and things like that. But that's going to be the best way to do it when everything lines up. Yeah, so we'll look at that, Joe. Next time you're at class, next time we're both there, we'll look at that a bit more in detail and make it a bit more automatic for you, because you're at the point now where you can do that. You're without thinking too heavily about it. I think you're there where it'll be a bit more automatic. But that's the idea. It really does matter how you're gripping, how you're attacking, and you're not always going to have that option either. Like sometimes, the underhooking hand is going to be your top arm. It's not going to be your bottom arm. So, your own arm is going to be in the way. Doesn't mean you can't do it. You can still attack that. It's just going to be a little bit more clunky. But the option's there, and we'll go over that a bit more. I guarantee you've heard me, preach this stuff already a million times, just because you've been there for plenty of back classes. But I know how this stuff goes. You're starting to get more granular, more technical in your approach. So we'll dive in, and I think it'll stick a little bit better the next time we talk about it. But it looks like that is the end of class. So good stuff. Again, this was from earlier this month. This was September 1st. So I think that was maybe at the beginning of some of the competition prep that you guys were doing. So things were starting to get a little bit more intense back then. But in any case, good stuff. You guys have certainly progressed since then. I hope you feel that way. It's been a month, so definitely want to be getting better. Pinball, thanks for joining us today, man. Thank you, Steven. Really appreciate all the questions, all the comments, all that stuff. Thank you, James. Thanks for sticking around for another geese stream. What else? And anybody in the chat, if you guys aren't, if you haven't followed us, please do. We really appreciate it. We're just about up to, yeah, man. Glad you dropped in. Anytime, man. Bring some questions, all that stuff. One of these days, we'll figure out a way to get some of the strangers who aren't students. We'll review some of your footage, your rolling footage, if you'd like. We'd really like to do that in the future. Try to blow this up to people beyond the school. So thank you, man. Really appreciate you, Pat. Thanks for sticking around. But yeah, if you guys haven't followed us, please do. We're at 98 followers. It'd be really rad if we get to 100. Not that it means anything at all, but it'd be really cool. So, and if you guys have a Twitch Prime, we would love to have your subscription. We really appreciate it. It's a month-to-month thing. Costs you nothing. It's a free subscription through Amazon, and it gives us a little bit of support. If you want to support us anymore, you could do so at coffee.com/mobjj. You can subscribe over on YouTube, where we post these videos for you guys to review for all eternity. So you'll get to watch as you get better and better. What else? What's going on this week? Anything?
Good job to all the competitors that competed. Really proud of all the anybody who goes out there and actually goes to compete. It takes a lot of guts. So, congratulations, no matter how it came out.
Yeah, I think everybody brought home some hardware this weekend, so it was cool. Steven got his he got a new breed belt, which was pretty rad.
Damn.
Walking around like he's in the WWE or something.
You should totally wear that to class.
Yeah, to class, to work, to restaurants, bars,
100%.
everything. And then some of the kids who competed, Kurt's boys brought home just a ridiculous amount of medals. Between the three of them, I think they have like 9 medals or something. It was crazy.
Sick.
Yeah, which is props to them. They entered into their experience division at intermediate, and then also the advanced division. So they went to guys their level, and then even tested themselves at guys above their level, and did a killer job. So props to those boys, and to the adults who competed as well. We've got another one coming up November 5th. That's Naga. So if you guys are interested, come talk to us. Come talk to Luke and Coach Bertram, and we'll get everybody who wants to compete ready to go for it.
Match times will go back from 4 minutes to 6. So
thank Christ.
Have some normal match times.
Good. Yeah. And yeah, we'll go over rules and all that stuff and get everybody prepped for it, as we always do. In the meantime, trim your nails and do your laundry, and don't be stinky, and get your asses back to the classes this week. We will see you guys on the mats tomorrow, and we'll see you then.
Later.
Take it easy, guys.